Both comrades who spoke earlier spoke about the historical relations between these three countries. And I'm not going to go into the research, and I think they have covered the entire gamut of historical relations. I think the most important thing, the development in the recent past, because of this development, is the resolution that has been passed in the Human Rights Council of the United Nations in the last week. And as if what has been happening during the last week and the week before, as if the freedom of the Tamil people is dependent on the outcome in Geneva. In this, the United States of America played one of the key roles, unexpected roles, in presenting a resolution in respect of Sri Lanka. As a person, company Maragiri and other Pagila. As I was saying, as a person who has been having a historical relationship with the Geneva exercise from 1983-84, I can tell you that the USA was the least interested country in matters related to Sri Lanka all these years. Their interest is of very recent origin, and it is at least less than even 2 years. They might have banned the LTT as the first European country, Western country, and that was the beginning of their interest. One might ask, why is it, after so many years and decades of neglect of an area, Southeast Asian country, an island, where there has been a conflict for nearly, why did not the USA intervene at that time, and why did it do it now? Is there a historical contemporary need for USA to intervene in a matter that was very contentious between a country like China, India and Sri Lanka? So I will leave it to the researchers to find the answer. How is it that the USA sent nearly 200 diplomats right around the world to canvass support in the capitals of the world to get votes for the resolution? And no sooner the resolution was passed, Hillary Clinton wrote to the Foreign Minister of Sri Lanka asking him to make a visit to the United States. And also I saw a news release saying concessionary oil deals to Sri Lanka. These are strange things that are happening. So in this struggle between the David and the Goliath, that is USA and Sri Lanka, comes India as playing an important role. This is the first time in the history of India that India has voted against Sri Lanka. India's position historically has been that it did not participate or vote again in respect of country-related matters, individual country matters. It believed fundamentally that each country is sovereign and the UN has no role to play in the internal affairs of a country. But it participated in thematic discussions relating to concepts which affected the entire world. But this time, how is it that India, being the lead member of the SAARC is composed of 7 countries of South Asia, and here is the biggest country voting against one of its own members. And particularly in the context of the subcontinent, where India finds Pakistan and Bangladesh as not that reliable friends, neighbors, Sri Lanka was reasonably reliable neighbor for India for all these decades. How come then India decided to vote in favor of this resolution. I think domestic considerations must have played much more importantly than other considerations, but Indian diplomats and foreign policy researchers have already started commenting that this decision of India to vote against Sri Lanka will have historical repercussions in the years to come. Now, as far as the resolution is concerned, it obtained, I think, 25 votes in favor, 15 against, and 8 abstained. Then the day before the voting, before India decided, the voting was almost tying equal, but Sri Lanka might have won the day in spite of the superpower exercises. India's vote was crucial, and therefore India may have to adjust its relations with Sri Lanka in the years to come. Now that it has been passed, what is this resolution? People have thought that this is going to bring peace to Sri Lanka. People think that it is going to. The way that it has been brought and enacted, it has developed new hostility as well. New forces have been created on both sides. How are these forces going to affect the intentions of the resolution? The resolution is some people think it is too weak. Some people think India has manipulated amendments to the resolution, and therefore it is not going to be so strong as to compel Sri Lanka to resolve what the issues. The two issues addressed by the resolution are: one, Sri Lanka to formulate an action plan for implementing the constructive recommendations of the learning and listening LLRC recommendations. And the next one is the word accountability. That is Sri Lanka to account for what it has done in terms of international obligations under the provisions of international law and international humanitarian law, that it should account for what it did. That means, in short, war crimes. That Sri Lanka should set up that even that. So, how are these going to be addressed? The resolution says that Sri Lanka can obtain advice from the Human Rights Council of the United Nations, and technical support also can be given by the Human Rights Council. But that has to be done with the consent and in concurrence with the government of Sri Lanka. So there is no automatic intervention. There is no door open automatically by the vehicle of this resolution to go into Sri Lanka and say, you do this and don't do this. But we know how the superpowers exercise their power. They don't go always legally. Only day before yesterday, the British government froze the bank accounts of Mrs. Assad, the president of Syria. There is no legal backing for that move. No, there was no resolution of the Security Council. Iran has faced so many sanctions without the sanction of the Security Council. There are so many countries. The superpowers have assumed a position now that they can function and perform and use their power like international thugs going into a bank and saying this account cannot be used by this country. So if Sri Lanka were to literally block the implementation of the resolution, intentions of the resolution, but I suspect Hillary Clinton will tell Mr. Professor G.L. Pires some few words in his ear saying, you also might face sanctions and therefore behave. So that is likely to happen. So it may be weak, but this is the second resolution that has been passed by the UN Human Rights Council. The first one was in 1986. That was also done with the help of India. Subsequently, many people have tried to pass resolutions. It could not. Even this time, it has been passed because of Indian support. So, Indian role in South Asia is quite an important one. There are people who say the complications, talk about the complications involved in the relations with China, Sri Lanka's relations with China, and Sri Lanka's relations with India. I think it is too. I think people are making too much of what is happening. China and Sri Lanka has historical relations dating back to 2,000 to 3,000 years. Same with India. It probably India, Sri Lanka was connected. Sorry, that must be from New Delhi. What was he saying? So, as far as India is concerned, we were even connected by the landmass of India, and our relations have been. There'll be the relations. So the relations, whether the port of Hambantota is going to be used to, China is going to use it against India. My hunch is it is not going to happen now. When superpowers and nuclear powers are involved, people don't use their military might willy-nilly, and therefore I think there is a lot of speculation. I'm going to finish it. So the question arises as to how the Indian Sri Lanka relations will develop within the next few months, and who is going to make the first move will determine the outcome of it. And I think my trend of talk has been disrupted by my telephone call. And Matima mentioned about his natural ties between these countries rather than artificial constructs. Yes, absolutely true. The contradictions arising on the Tamil question, as if the recommendations in the resolution are not too difficult to be implemented. This is the LLRC. It is less than the 13th Amendment. So now the mountain has labored and produced a mouse, and let us enjoy it.